Orange County teacher who talked with some middle school kids about the issue and was blown away by their responses. She's also the co-founder of cyberwise.org. Diana, you talked to eighth graders here, I believe. Now, what did they already know about sexting and what didn't they know?
Well, they all knew what sexting was because, of course we see it all the time in the press. But also, let me put it in context. I teach a 3-year digital media literacy curriculum called Cyber Civics. And so we talk about all kinds of digital issues for 3 years before we get to the 8th grade year, where we talk about sexting in particular. And when I brought up the topic with the kids, I actually shared a story with them of a sexting incident that happened with a 15-year-old boy who received a sexting image, took one look at it, shared it with a friend, got rid of it, and then the consequence is this young man ended up being suspended from school for a month, which, for a high school student, that's a big deal. So when I shared this story with the kids in one of our lessons, I put it to them to debate it, to talk about it and tell me what they thought. And first of all, like I said, they all knew what sexting was, but literally not a single kid in the room knew what the consequences of sexting would be. And so when they heard what happened to this 15-year-old boy, they were irate. And so I said, look, what should the consequences be? And they said, the person who should be in trouble is the school for not teaching the kids about the consequences of sexting. Like, they didn't feel like you could throw the book at the kid without giving him some education first.
Well, some of the students wanted to talk to you privately about the issue. What's that all about?
Well, right. I mean, what's interesting is, this was an 8th grade class. In the class that I teach, it's weekly, but this happens at the very end of the day. And usually at the end of the day, kids want to go home. And, this particular day, I had a group of boys that stuck around and they wanted to debate and talk even further. Think about it. What are middle school kids most interested in? Number one, each other. Number two, their digital devices. And so what we have here is a perfect storm, So this is top of mind for them. And it's something that they deal with every day. They're with each other. They're on their devices. So, of course, given the opportunity of an adult that will talk to them about their world, they'll take it. And so that's what I experienced.
All right. Can you hang on just a second, Diana?
Sure.
We're up against traffic right now. We're going to check on the freeways. I want to ask you what advice you can give parents on this kind of thing, parents who may not have a clue. That's coming up. This issue of sexting and how the LAUSD is talking about it more and more. I want to ask you, Diana, and Maggie and I were talking. We're not 100% sure about exactly what the sexting is. Is it text, pictures, both?
Sexting is the sending or receiving of sexually explicit images or text.
Okay. And so what's your advice? What's your advice to parents then who may not know?
Well, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, there's two things I'd say to parents. Number one is definitely educate yourselves. It's a whole new world, and we've got to be there for our kids, and that's why we started cyberwise.org. It's a site full of free resources for parents and teachers so they can understand the digital world better. And number two, and almost more importantly, is make sure your kids are getting educated. I mean, I think it's important that we all advocate for digital literacy being taught in the schools. I mean, that's why I teach cyber civics, and I've got about 24 other schools teaching it now as well, because it's so important to educate these kids, not just about sexting. You can't talk about sexting in a silo. It's a whole curriculum of all the things that they deal with online. Right. It's very important that they learn about this.
I'm glad you wait till the 8th grade, though.
Okay, yeah. Absolutely. Good point. Diana Graber, thank you so much.
All right,
Orange
you're
County
so
teacher,
welcome.
Good luck with everything you're doing with the LAU.